the first episode. It's going to be probably terrible.
I know, but like, oh my god.
At least we're going to sound better than the first My Brother and Me episode.
Honestly, it wasn't that bad, and at least they were funny. So...
Hi, I'm Andrea, also known as Rhea, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Elia. I use they, them pronouns. We are recording this in September. This episode will be released in October, which is the release date of this book, Black Sun.
Black Sun.
I was about to say Dead Sun.
Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Before we discuss the book, I want to talk about the representation that is in the book. First, there's queer characters. Two of the main characters, Ciala and Narampa, are queer, and many of the side characters are also queer. The book also uses neopronouns such as ze-zer. The transrep in the book is described as the third gender. The modern Western transgender community does not use this term, but in many indigenous cultures, a third gender does exist in their communities. For example, moose in Zapotec culture in what is now known as Oaxaca, Mexico, and two-spirit, which is a gender many Northern American indigenous communities have. This is something only indigenous people can use, and it's a term only for them. This book is also a pre-colonial American-inspired fantasy. Keyword is inspired, not based. And there's also disability rep in which one of the main characters is blind. So quick Black Sun summary with a lot of spoilers. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with the solar eclipse, a rare event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Although she is the leader of the tower, which is the religious order the Skymaid clan to follow, Narampa is marked as an outsider for she has a different origin than most sun priests. Narampa comes from the Ma, where everybody lives in poverty, and this places her in the crosshairs of an assassination attempt. This event is used against her by her rivals, who see her as an affront to tradition, especially as she works to gain the trust of the people and return the tower to its charitable ways. The tower has lost a bit of its reputation because of the Night of Knives. The Night of Knives was a terrible event that haunts these characters, for the previous Sun Priest ordered a large murder of the Carrion Crow clan in fear that they were going to revolt soon, for there was a growing cult activity in the clan. People in the tower began to move Narampa from the public eye, promising that it was for her safety, but it was a move to remove her from power. As she struggles to regain her position, she is forced to return to the very place she tries to erase from her past, and she seeks help in the Ma. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and is set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Ciala, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her journey has the sole purpose of transporting one passenger, Serapio, whose destiny is set from the moment he was born. He was raised as a vessel for the grandfather Crow God, who will enact revenge against the Sun Priest for the Night of Knives. Through their journey, they arrive to Tova, and although the two have bonded, Serapio knew his purpose and went to fulfill it, leaving Ciala behind. Serapio's attempt to kill the Sun Priest ends in a fruitless massacre, for Narampa was replaced by one of her students. Narampa instead is found in the Ma, close to death through a different assassination attempt, but being revived by a witch. Okoa, brother to the leader of the Carrion Crow clan, who has just returned from a military-type training academy, finds Serapio and takes him away from the scene of the massacre, ending the book on that note.
Okay, so this episode is structured into 3 different parts. The first part, I wanted to go over some ratings, non-spoiler ratings for different things in this book. The pacing, I rated 4 out of 5 stars.
I also rated it 4 out of 5 stars.
Wow, look at us.
Wow.
World building, I said 5 out of 5.
I love the world building, so 5 out of 5 stars for me too.
Oh my god, stop copying me.
Oh my gosh, I hate this.
Okay, so I rated the POVs, Okoa, 4 out of 5.
I also gave Okoa 4 out of 5.
What the fuck? Serapio, 4 out of 5?
I gave Serapio 4 out of 5.
What the fuck?
Did we give the same ratings?
No, we did not. Okay, Narampa,
Okay.
I gave 5 out of 5.
Oh yeah,
I know that's a
Narampa 5 out of
for you
5.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shala, I gave 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5 too.
Dude, whoa,
We gave the same ratings.
We are connected.
Same brain, honestly.
The ending / climax, 3 out of 5.
I gave it 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall plot, 3 out of 5.
Yeah, 3 out of 5.
And the book as a whole, 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have thoughts on that, but I mean, obviously I'll talk about that later.
We'll get into it.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to elaborate on those ratings. So pacing, I said 4 out of 5. I think a lot of the chapters get straight to the point, and they add a lot of world building. Also, the buildup of tension from Naranpa and Okoa's POVs really kept me interested and on the edge of my seat. The reason why I gave it a 4 out of 5 is because Shala and Serapio's POVs really just sabotage the flow of the story. The book is really plot heavy, and it when it goes to Shala's and Serapio's POVs, it abruptly switches to focus on interpersonal relationships in their POVs, and so it kind of just interrupted the flow of the story.
Oh my gosh, I feel really bad, but I dozed off.
You what?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, what do you mean?
My brain turned off.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Bro,
I know,
this
but
is supposed to be a conversation.
Yes. I'm sorry.
You just ignore me.
So for pacing, I felt like it was really done well. You probably mentioned this, but you kept on wanting to read the next chapter because you wanted to get to Narampa's story, and you were like, oh shit's going down.
Yeah.
I want to see it going down. Oh my gosh, I sound so dumb. How do you think I'm smart? That's the real question. That's all I really had on pacing. That I really wanted to get to the next chapter, so it was good.
Do you not have any criticisms for the pacing? Because I thought you did.
I don't remember them.
Okay.
Oh wait, okay, yes. Those chapters with Ciara, it slowed the story so much because you have such a dramatic end of the world situation, and then you have, oh, we're sailing on the ocean, blah blah blah, and it just stopped the flow of the story a lot.
Naranpa's POV was as you said, end of the world, and then we get to Shala and Serapio's POV, and it was kind of just them falling in love.
Yeah.
It kind of just felt like this book was unbalanced with two different genres. That's why it just felt really weird reading this.
They didn't mesh together well enough in my taste that it just created two different vibes, because some chapters I was reading and I was like, this is amazing, god tier book, and then the next chapter I was like, okay, so when's the next chapter?
Yeah, you would get in really high stakes situations,
Yeah.
and then it would just slow down to a kind of irrelevant to the main plot of their romance.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it was a really weird pacing of the book. Okay, so the next one is world building.
Okay.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. I feel like I shouldn't rate this just because I don't really understand world building that well, not as much as you. So I guess, yeah.
You said 5 out of 5 in the beginning.
Oh shit. That's on me. My notes are different.
Damn. Okay, so you really gave it 4 out of 5.
Maybe I don't. Okay, you know what? It doesn't even matter because I don't know shit about world building.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter anyway, right? Okay, let me just say my thoughts really quick before you go and say a really long paragraph about this. So I'm really bad at following world building. Usually just flies over my head, but in this book it was really easy for me to follow, so I guess that kind of means something. But I also want to point out that a lot of the world building was constructed in Narampa's and Okoa's chapter, and oh my god, it's like they carried the book.
They really did. They really did.
They really did.
Okay, so I know some people see world building as oh, just the creation of a setting, but for me, world building is how the world interacts with the person and how the person interacts with the world, which is why I thought this book had a really cool and just amazing to me world building, because not only do you see how a character's background and upbringing still remains in them to whatever point in life they are, but also the whatever magic powers they have. What am I saying? Gosh.
No, I do know what you're saying, though, because you're saying that, because we do see, this kind of goes into the POV ratings, but we do see Serapio as a child, and then we also see him as an adult, and so we can kind of see how that has progressed through his lifespan.
So it creates a really developed world because we get to see how each thing affects a person. It's not just, oh, we're inserting this personality into a fantasy universe. Like, no, it's a fully developed world where fully developed characters interact with spaces and the spaces interact with them, which I think is really fascinating, because a lot of fantasy books, especially by white men, do not do that. They just self-insert and they're like, okay, I'm in a fantasy world and I have a sword. That's all.
That's not what I would do if I self-inserted. Wink. Okay, so now we can finally delve into the character portion.
Okay, I'm so excited.
Oh my god, this is gonna be the longest fucking conversation. So, first, Okoa. I gave him a 4 out of 5.
I love him. Okay, I
Stop!
gave him a 4 out of 5.
Stop!
Okay,
we have to give constructive criticism.
He's really hot.
Thank you for your criticism.
No, 4 out of 5, I gave it 2. And I felt like he could have been a 5 out of 5 character. He was a 5 out of 5 character, but he's the POV with less chapters.
Yeah, he barely had double digits, to be honest.
Yeah, but still, even with so little chapters, he brought so much to the book. Through him, we find out, like, so much of the...
About the crows.
Yes. Which is central to the plot.
Oh, he doesn't have that much screen time. So we don't really know that much about him. Like, all I know is that, like, he was trained as a soldier because he went to school for that, and he's the son of Carrion Crow, which is, like, the crow's leader.
He also has a pet crow.
Yeah, he does have a pet crow. But it's, like, a really big crow, so you can ride them.
Yeah.
Okay, back to actual criticism and commentary. I really liked having a perspective of someone who is part of the crows because, you know, the crows are so central to the plot that it feels like a necessary POV to have. And also because through Okoa, we also interact with the cult. I feel like having more of that perspective really enhances the story.
His POV felt very much like a setup for a more important player for the next book. Like, I feel like he's going to be a main character, hopefully, in the next book. Some people don't even consider him a main POV because of how little chapters he has, but...
Oh yeah, I don't want to call him a main POV, to be honest.
Oh, really? Well, yeah,
I mean,
valid.
like, he doesn't have enough chapters. Like, like I said earlier, he barely has double digits.
He brings more to the table than Ciala.
I just wanted to say, I think this book would have really benefited if Rebecca had POVs of side characters, even if that character only had a POV, like, once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it would have been relevant to have a cult POV, because while Okoa did give us some information about the cults, it did not really feel like it was enough. Like, or, like, having, like, a cult POV when Serapio massacres people.
Yeah.
Like, this is what the whole book is building up to. This is what they've been waiting for. They've been praying for it for, like, decades. Having a POV for that would provide some kind of emotion to Serapio killing people.
That would have provided more feeling to the massacre, instead of just being viewed from the outside of the people who did it.
Yeah, it just felt very mechanical. Let's move on to Serapio. I gave him a 4 out of 5. I believe you did 4 out of 5 too. Oh yeah, you did, because you have the same fucking ratings as me. God.
Well, why do I have the same ratings as you? You have the same ratings as me.
No. Are you older than me?
Oh. Yes.
No, I don't think so. I came before you.
I'm also
Therefore,
taller than you. I'm also taller than you.
Yeah, you know what, you are. But that's not okay, just cut that out. Nobody has to know that.
Wow.
I am God here. Nobody has to know anything.
Wow. I'm just going to be completely muted from this podcast.
Yeah, just going to be a one-person podcast. Okay, Serapio. I think you said you didn't like it that much, but the young Serapio chapters were so fucking good. I loved those chapters so much. That's the only reason I'm giving him 4 stars instead of 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I just thought,
Aww.
I think his flashbacks, or whatever you want to call them, I feel like they just brought so much to the story and so much to him. Like, his POVs on the boat just were not enough for me. Because, like, again, as I mentioned earlier, it was just a lot of, like, romance focused.
I actually did like his younger chapters. I didn't like Narampa's younger chapters, but I'll talk about that when we get to hers, yeah. He, as a character, as who he is, I would rate him 5 out of 5. Honestly, I love him. I think he's great. But the way the story goes, the way the things we find out about him and how we find that out about him. Like a soft side. We discover a soft side and it's because of a romance. And that shit pisses me off. I don't like that. Especially since he's portrayed as like, oh, the bringer of death.
I mean, like, the thing is that he already has a soft side and we see that in his younger POVs.
That's true. Wait,
because, like, I mean, we in his
Yeah.
flashbacks, we see him growing up and training with these strangers. They're very harsh trainers, and there's zero love in this environment that he grew up in, and we see him really struggle as a child. I mean, obviously, children need to be in a nurturing environment, and he just did not grow up in that. And so, like, seeing him struggle through that, we do see, like, vulnerable side of him as a child. So
That
so
is
much
true.
love for those chapters.
He has a lot of negativity in his life. The first chapter of the whole book is him being blinded by his mom. Like, gouged out his eyes, stuff like
and then
that.
carved into his body with a knife, like
Offering him to the crow god, the grandfather crow. And it's just, for somebody who grew up like that, to show emotion, soft emotions, is really important. And I think that's one of the reasons she did introduce the romance, but it didn't work for me at all.
I mean, but the thing is that you don't have to do that through romance, though.
Yeah, but people think.
Like, you don't need romance to humanize people.
For me, Sarabia's chapters were also interesting, and the reason I really loved his chapters is because it talked a lot about the generational trauma that gets passed through people. He wasn't part of the crows. He wasn't even alive yet when they were massacred. He still has that resent that was passed down by his mother. She raised him to be angry about that. She raised him to be an object of vengeance. I think that's, like, interesting. And also the fact that he immigrated away from his home and came back, it felt like a very much immigrant story. I don't know how to describe that yet. It's just in the back of my mind, but I like it a lot.
Yeah. Generational trauma is still something I'm new to noticing and really analyzing. Watchmen, the HBO series, is what really brought that to my attention. Maybe I subconsciously understood that while reading it, but that wasn't really something that really stood out to me. The reason why I'm critical of Serapio's chapters is because, personally, I focus a lot on, like, the plot of books. I was very intrigued by him as a character, but while I was reflecting on the book, I don't really remember much of what happens in his chapters in the present day. And so it kind of felt like his chapters weren't as impactful as Naranpa's or Koa's. And that's why I knocked him down to 3 stars.
Yeah, honestly, the flashbacks and, for me, the generational trauma was what saved him for me. Because his chapters, what he does is really nothing until we get to the end. And even that end, it feels like nothing.
I mean, like, I do want to say some positives about the present day POV.
Okay.
It was really nice to see him interact with people who didn't view him as, like, a holy being or a vessel for a god. Like, people saw him as a person. You know, it was nice to see him get some positive interaction with other human beings after, like, you know, all the emotional neglect and suffering that he went through. It was just nice to see him in a somewhat positive environment because, you know, they still didn't like him, but, you know, there was some positivity around him.
Yeah, and since he's technically, at least he was technically portrayed as a villain, I do think that's really interesting, where we get a character who was given so much shit during his youth, finally get some positivity, and still at the end choose to continue the vengeance.
So
and
interesting that you call him a villain, though.
I don't. The book does.
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't think of him as a villain.
No, the book refers to him as a villain.
Okay, Naranpa, our favorite.
Oh,
my
I
God.
love her.
5 out of 5 stars. Fucking fantastic. I love her so much.
I would literally die for her. I love her. Everything she does, perfect.
At the beginning of the book, we are introduced to Naranpa and Ciala, and so in contrast, their POVs are just so different that Naranpa was the only one that really gave some sort of implication that we have this huge plot to look forward to. And so that is why I really liked her POV from the beginning, because it was just really plot heavy.
Yeah, she's
such an interesting character.
She was placed at the center of where the action's happening, and that just gives her already a head start. Plus, she's an amazing developed character. She has a lot of nuance where she's a leader of a religion, but at the same time, everybody regards her as an outsider because she's not part of a Sky-made clan. She's part of what is called the Maw, where all the poor people live, basically. She was, like, poverty. But now she's a religious leader. And that, including all the crazy stuff that's going on with the Crow clan and the attempted murders, everything. It's just chef's kiss.
I mean, like, her chapters were assassinations, secrets, corruption, people fighting for power. It was just a wonderful mix of everything in one POV. And it was also spaced out evenly throughout the entire book. So, like, it was so hard to, like, not love her chapters. Like, it's impossible not to. She's a really great fucking character.
Amazing. Also, there is a romance for Narampa, and it doesn't overwhelm her actions or her plot. And I think that shows that Rebecca Roanhorse can do this. Like, she has the talent.
Okay, but, like, the thing is that we both read Rebecca's other book, The Trail of Lightning.
Yeah.
Which does have romance as sort of, like, the central plot. Does it not? Because, like, it talks about...
No, it does. It does.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, there's, like, an implication that the main character is interested in this one guy, and then she also has a lot of references in trauma to attraction to this god that was in her past. And so, like, I mean, Rebecca does know how to have romance as a central plot in her book and not make it this, like, obnoxious, stereotypical heterosexual romance.
Honestly, if the book had just been her, I would have loved it. I do think it's necessary to have other POVs, but focusing just on her, this is a 5 out of 5 book.
Dude, yeah. I mean, like, because, like I said, though, like, Narampa and Okowa literally carry the book. And Okowa barely has any chapters, so if you just take him out, then Narampa literally just carries the book on her own.
Like, all she would need are a few POVs of people on the boat where Serapio is, and a few from the Crow, and you got a book, a solid book.
Ciala.
I gave her 2 out of 5.
I also gave 2 out of 5.
You gave her 3 out of 5. Stop changing things.
No, I didn't! What the fuck? No, I said 2 out of... Let me check.
Oh, no.
I did say 2 out of 5. Fuck you.
Okay. For me, it's an absolute tragedy of a character. Like, she, at the beginning, I thought I was gonna adore her. She's queer, she's a pirate, she's a hot mess.
She reminds me of Chris Pine as Captain James T. Kirk in Star Trek. Like, it's just, that kind of character is just so fucking appealing. Like, I don't understand how you can fuck that up so badly.
Honestly, like, everything about her should be, like, viewer favorite, reader favorite, whatever. But yet, she's the worst. Her chapters, I would breeze through them because I couldn't stand them.
Do you mind if I go back and first talk about her character?
Yes.
Ciala is established as this person who is laid back and flirty and gets drunk a lot, and they're this independent woman, and she's queer. Did I already say that? No, I didn't. She's queer, and that's super fucking fantastic. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, she gets love struck and throws away her identity to follow Serapio. And it was like, the way she was written, it was as if she was not her own person. It's just really frustrating because some of her decisions were for Serapio, which contradicts the character that we were first introduced to and, like, the core values that I thought that she had. And so, like when they finally arrived to that city after being on the fucking ocean for, like, 6 weeks or whatever, like, the reason why she took this job was because she wanted the money. And, like, Serapio was like, nah, I gotta dip. And so Ciala was like, oh shit, I need to go with you. Let me just sell all this merchandise for the cheapest price possible so I can go follow you. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
It made no sense. It was so frustrating, especially since she was literally dying for a boat. She wanted a boat because it meant she would have her liberty and she wouldn't be, like, tied to anything. Yeah, she wanted to be a captain, and she was finally a captain. The boat she was given to for this mission, the Lord basically gave it to her. He said, like, after you do this, it's yours. You just have to do a few things for me.
The thing is that Ciala is an interesting character. Like, she could be. She has, like, the ability to control water and shapeshift her body because she's part of a race of people that can do that. And then we also know that she has, like, a dark past, but we don't really get to know about that because like, she mentions it once or twice and then thinks that's enough to make her character interesting, but it just makes her, like, very flat and underdeveloped.
Yeah, and one of the last times Ciela mentions her backstory, like, offhandedly, is with Serapio, and she literally stops because Serapio starts saying something, and then we never know anything about it after that.
And I mean, it's not like written as a clip. I don't know, maybe is it supposed to be written as, like, some sort of mystery cliffhanger?
Like it didn't feel like that.
It just makes her feel so underdeveloped. She's just like some sidekick or something.
Honestly,
like
she would have
NPC.
worked as a side character, honestly. Like, if she had been a side POV that happened as many times as Okoa was, I felt like that would have been better. But I don't know if Rebecca was trying to do, like, oh, I'm gonna give this character, what was it called? Sensitivity, or, like, be more, like, allow her to have a soft side. But at the end, it just ended up being, like, I'm giving up everything that I am just so I could have a chance at being with this guy.
Yeah, and like, as I was reading the book, it made me think, why is Shala here? What is she doing for the plot? Why did Rebecca decide to have this character have a main POV? And, like, as I was reading it, you realize it's because she's a love interest, and that's her sole purpose in this story. And so we see this strong character who is deteriorating because of the romance. Like, she's being forced into this role of bland romantic interest. And it's so annoying because you get these plot-driven chapters, and they're so fucking good. And then you get these character-driven chapters that have, like, no impact to the story at all.
It's also, you could see how Ciela didn't have anything to go. Like, she didn't have her own character arc because her last chapter in the book is just being sad that she didn't reach him in time. Like, that's it.
Oh my god, you're right.
Like,
she doesn't have a character arc at all.
No, there's nothing that she's going towards. It's literally trying to get to him and not being able to reach him. And Serapio, even though he is softened at one point, he still can continue his character arc even though he has the romance in his.
Her character arc literally is the romance.
It is. And it's a fail because she doesn't get him. And it's just
It's a fail.
She failed her own character arc. And it's just like, it's frustrating because Serapio was able to get through it, and he was like, okay, I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to be with you, but, like, I gotta go do my own thing. And she's like, oh no, I failed. That's it.
I have so much to say on that specific part of their romance. Okay, so Xiala's POV is just so confusing, and I'm trying to understand, like, why Rebecca decided to focus so much on their romance, or, like, why Xiala was so blinded by her attraction to Serapio. And just, like, thinking about how Rebecca decided to structure this story, I think she wanted us to have perspectives from all sides of this incoming tragedy, right? And so Narampa has the tower, Okoa has the crows and the cult, Serapio is the person who is going to massacre people, and Shala is supposed to be, like, the outsider and is supposed to humanize Serapio. But, like, as I said earlier, you don't need romance to humanize someone.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as fuck.
It really is. Like, that was the most frustrating part of the book for me.
Like, the romance doesn't make, oh my god, the romance doesn't make sense. Angrily sips my water.
I don't like it. But also, I feel like we should say, we're two people who hate romance in books.
Okay, but we also, we also read romance. Like, I don't exclude romance entirely from what I read.
We don't like romance in books once it takes over what the book is supposed to be about.
Yeah, we have to clarify that.
Especially in fantasy, when there's so many big stakes, and all of a sudden the author's deciding to focus on this romance. It's just like, why is this doing here? What is this?
I mean, like, I feel like authors don't understand that you can have, this is a entirely different conversation, but I don't think authors understand you can have romance and also a fantasy as a background, but a lot of the times authors want to make it, like, fantasy focused and then also try to make it romance focused, but then their decision to make romance such, like, a strong focus they often neglect the fantasy aspect, and so it just becomes a romance. And then, like, the plot for the fantasy part, like the main plot that we're supposed to be focusing on, is just like very underdeveloped, and so when you get to the end of it, it's just nothing.
The funny thing about this book is that it has both. It has the overwhelming romance, and it also has the subtle one that doesn't ruin the book, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God. I'm going to talk a bit about, like, how we were so... Okay, when I was reading this book, I was so afraid of finishing it because, like, I really thought this book was going to follow all the cliches. I thought Shala was going to, like, find out what Serapio's destiny was and, like, beg him not to commit mass murder, and Serapio was going to have, like, this breakdown questioning if he should do it or not. The thing is that I was totally surprised when Shala didn't even influence Serapio's emotional state at all. What the fuck? Like, what was the... Oh my god. Oh, like, what was the point of even building up the romance?
Exactly. It just stresses the point that it wasn't necessary. The humanizing of Serapio could have been achieved in a different way without this romance.
So it's like all this time and effort that Rebecca was putting into the romance, it should have had some sort of impact on him, but he did not give a single fuck about her. So, like, what was the point of focusing so much on the romance?
Literally, the only thing that Ziala achieved with the romance was, they had some fun times, some sexy bits together, and that's it. Like, one...
I skipped that shit.
It was like a paragraph, and that's the only thing that was achieved through this romance. It was just like, okay, that happened. Moving on. Now go commit mass murder.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I also appreciate that Rebecca decided to have him be, like, emotionally detached from her. Because realistically speaking, I hate the trope when people are willing to throw away everything for someone they just met, which is what Shala is doing. But, you know, since Serapio is literally the key to the climax of the story, I'm very happy that he didn't stop himself from doing what he was going to do just because of this rando that he met a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and we thought that was going to happen. We really were scared when we were talking about this. And at some points, you were saying that you didn't want to continue reading.
Yeah, I just wanted to stop because the book was so good up until this point, and I was like, bro, if it's gonna go into cliches, this stupid romance, I don't want to finish it because I just want to be happy with the book. I mean, like, what was the motivation for reducing Shala's character? If the romance was gonna lead to nothing. Like, what was the point?
It's just a disservice to what she could have been.
The romance just feels like Rebecca was trying to fluff up the book. The rest of the chapters are all plot-driven, right? And so if you just look at how many plot-driven chapters there isn't a lot, and so the book would actually be pretty short. And then if you fluff it up with all that romance, it makes it a pretty lengthy book. I think that's what she was doing. I don't know.
And our special guest tonight, Rebecca Roanhorse, to tell us why.
Stop! Don't say that shit. Let me just say one more thing about Shala before we end this, unless you had something else to say. We said earlier that it would have been better if Shala was just a side character. And I, like, entirely agree with that because she only really needed a POV for when she's hired, when she's getting the boat, when she's talking to the crew, when we meet Serapio, because we need an outsider's view to this stranger, and when shit went down on the boat. Like, that's all we really needed for her. That's all that's really relevant to, like, the plot. And if you do need the romance, we could have just had the romance in Serapio's POV, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because if the purpose of the romance is to humanize Serapio and make him question his destiny, then that would have been better in his POV anyway.
Yeah.
Man, I made you speaceless.
Yeah.
I made Andrea speechless.
It's just... There's so many things about this book that with just, like, a little tweaking, it would have been so good, and I would have been, like, raving about it constantly. And I did like the book. It's a 3 out of 5 book, a 5-star book. I enjoyed it, but not as much as I could have. And it has a lot of potential, and it's frustrating that I didn't reach it.
This book was, like, my anticipated read for 2020. So it's just very devastating that this is how it turned out. Actually, no. This was not my most anticipated read for 2020.
No.
You know what book it was.
God is there, and you
that
said that?
that was more devastating. That was fucking devastating.
Oh, God.
Well, I was saying that in the context that I have
Yes.
not read The Burning God.
Okay.
I have successfully erased that from my brain. So.
Tune in
I have
on
not
our
read that
next
fucking book.
episode about the Burning God.
No, if we did that, we'd actually have to finish it, and I don't want to.
I would have to finish the Dragon Republic.
It's gonna be too much discussions about
Anger.
racism.
Anger.
And that's too personal. I don't want to talk about racism.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, let's talk about the climax.
Fuck. I gave it 2 out of 5.
I also gave it a 3 out of 5.
I said 2, not 3.
Oh, shit. I gave it a 3.
That was just, for me, disappointing in every way possible.
Okay, Naramba's hiding. Serapio massacred people in literally the briefest description ever. And then Okoa found him, and then that was it.
Oh, wait, you forgot. Ciala was sad because she didn't reach Serapio on time. That's what she was doing.
Oh my god.
She was literally trampled in a crowd trying to reach him. For me, all the endings were anticlimactic. Even Narampa's, although hers was personally to me the most interesting ending because I don't know if...
But I don't like where it left off,
Yeah, it felt like something was still missing. The book felt like there was chapters still missing. I generally thought my arc was missing chapters.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally like Doom Patrol Season 2, right?
It really is.
The reason why Season 2 ends in such a terrible way is because they couldn't finish it before the pandemic started. And I feel like I got this arc before Rebecca even finished it. Like, there's just so much missing at the end.
For all the characters. Every single one.
I mean, there could still be changes, but like, so much was missing though. Like, I don't expect drastic changes in the released copy.
No. You know what? I believe Rebecca could easily have added a chapter for each POV and wrapped it up at least a little bit better. Just give it something.
There's a difference between cliffhangers and literally stopping in the middle of action and calling it a cliffhanger, because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it really did. It didn't make me excited for the next book, like, oh, fuck, I can't wait for the next one. It was like, that was a weird place to end. It doesn't feel complete.
It just feels like I stopped watching a movie 10 minutes before it finished.
Yeah. And also, even if there's a cliffhanger in a book, the characters should have completed their something. And I feel like just one character didn't achieve it. One left off in a weird position during their arc. One was maybe dead. The other just flew on a bird. I don't understand what was going on. The epic battle, the massacre that was expected, it was so uneventful. Like, he did it in, 2 sentences, and, all of a sudden he killed all these people. The climax was almost not even there. It happened, if it was any other event.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I agree, because the majority of the focus was, on other stuff. Mm-hmm. The massacre was, focused on the least out of all of that chaos. I mean, at the very least, describe how he's killing people in, detail or something.
Make it gory. I think there was more about him cuddling with the crow than there was of the actual massacre.
Oh, when he the night before?
Yeah. I think that got more focus.
And then Okoa was all, what the fuck? That's my crow.
That's my crow. What are you doing? Also, it felt weird that Okoa's chapters, even though he got very little POVs, that it ended with him and Serapio. It felt like once again a perspective was going to be given to Serapio. And although Serapio is a really interesting character, I don't want everybody to all of a sudden be revolving him and his journey. So for the last chapter of Okoa, it was only focused on getting to Serapio and taking him away. There was nothing about Okoa in it. And it kind of felt like a Ciala thing where her personality was given up a little in order to focus on Serapio.
But I think what Rebecca was trying to achieve was that is the wonder and confusion of this outsider sort of approaching the mess that Serapio left behind. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I even then it doesn't feel really well written. So I agree. But also Okoa was used to describe the aftermath because he did find the bodies, yes. And he was also the person to confirm that Iktan was still alive.
Yeah, that is true. But to give it a positive, I did like that it did subvert what we thought was going to happen. That he actually, even though the massacre wasn't as exciting as we thought, he did it still.
Okay, last. Overall plot, 3 out of 5.
Ooh, 3 out of 5.
I just want to say, disclaimer, I gave this book a 3, but I'm not happy with that rating, and I want to give it a 2, but at the same time, a lot of this book really stood out to me, and that is why I have to give it a 3. But it's very difficult when you have some parts of the books that makes you feel like it's a 4 star, and then other parts of the book where it feels like a 2 star, and so...
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat, because at first I thought I was going to give it a 4 out of 5, and then I lowered it to a 3 because of the things I didn't like. But then I would remember the things I do love, because I love a lot of things about the book, and I also hate a lot of things about the book. It's a disservice that we have to, like, summarize all the ratings into one.
I think what I did on my Goodreads review was just I took out my rating completely because I just couldn't give it a 3 stars with, like, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't see that 3 out of 5 stars and be satisfied.
It's a 4-star book and a 2-star book mixed together, and that's the best way to describe it.
Okay, closing. Personal enjoyment?
My personal enjoyment was 4 out of 5. I did end up enjoying it a lot, even if I hated some parts.
Yeah, I also gave it a 4 out of 5, and I think that's mainly because I read it with you, and I was given the opportunity to really critically analyze the book with somebody else and have, like, our thoughts bounce off of each other.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm blushing.
Yeah. Reread ability.
I probably would not reread this book.
I would not reread this either.
The only reason I would ever read it is if I completely forget everything that happened in the book. Because I do want to read the second one. I have hope for the second one to be better. If I completely forget what happened. But it's been a few months and I still remember the book. Like, I don't remember details, but I remember the feelings and the main event. And I don't think I'm going to forget it because it made me angry and really happy at the same time.
Okay, who would you recommend this to? Oh my god, my nose is really stuffy. Hold on. I don't know why. I think it's a little hot in San Francisco.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you in San Francisco.
Okay, who would you recommend this to?
This is what I wrote. I don't know if I agree with it anymore right now, but this is what I wrote. I would recommend it to those who like romance in their fantasy, who don't see it as a negative, who maybe will find meaning in the romance in Ciala and Serapio. I don't know, that's what I said.
I disagree with you.
Those who are tired of Western colonizer fantasy canon.
Oh yeah, that too. I disagree with past you though.
Yeah?
Because even I mean, like, I can appreciate a romance when it's written.
Okay, that is true. Yeah.
Fine. But I mean, like, Charla was also reduced to a romantic interest, so, like, I can be critical of that as well.
You see, I don't read. You may read romance for funsies. I don't ever do that.
Okay, I don't, bitch. Okay, you literally read webtoons. What the fuck are you talking about? Do not even.
I read one webtoon. Leave me alone. Okay, valid.
One? I do not believe you.
Okay.
I do not believe you.
You know what? Okay, valid. I do read romances. I read webcomics that are romances. And I feel like that's a different medium.
We know how to consume romantic
medium than the book, in a fantasy book. No, because I know in other fantasy books I've read where I don't like the romance and I think it's a disservice to the book, other people have adored it. And that's why I say that. Like, if you're a person who reads fantasy books and you enjoy most of the romances that are out there, because sometimes I can't make a difference between a romance that's written badly and a romance that I just simply hate.
Yeah, I just want the listeners to not get the impression that we hate it because there's romance.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
I just want to clarify that there is legitimate criticism on how this romance was written.
Let's erase everything I just said. I recommend this book for people who are tired of Western colonizer fantasy.
I would recommend this to people who frequently read a lot. Because if you are someone who only reads like 10 books a year, I do not want you to read this book. I'm not going to recommend it to you. I feel like there are other things that you might enjoy more. Okay, so what's our closing? What's our closing? How do we close this? Usually the McElroys have like a song playing.
We don't have music. A song. We should get a song.
Are you gonna write a song? I'm not gonna write a song.
Can we just...
The pause tells me that you...
Who do you think I am? I would like a song with vibe that has the Amnesty ending song. You know, the little banjo?
You want a folk song to be our intro and outro?
Listen. Or something like The Haunting of Hill House.
We have to fucking record an outro.
Okay. Okay. Goodbye. No.
That's not an outro.
Goodbye.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast. Bear with us as we try to understand how to record a good podcast episode.
Tune in next time.